Hey guys, what's up YouTube? I just wanted to make a quick video on my customized Umarex Notos. I know you guys probably seen a million in one of these types of videos, and but I think this one's a little unique in its own little way. I was never planning on doing this, but I decided to. I'm just going to go through briefly what I did, briefly as I can, because I've done a lot of custom work to it. Up here's just a typical buck rail, 22 caliper moderator. It's connected into a custom-made 500 millimeter FX liner barrel kit that I actually purchased this from C88 Machining off eBay. And what it is it's just a kit that'll house the FX liner. And what comes with the kit is the carbon fiber shroud here. It's got two end caps, one here, one here. It's got the jam nut here that's made out of brass. And then it's got the transfer port breech valve, or not valve, but port that on this end. And they're both threaded into a stainless steel barrel housing. And then what you have to do after that is purchase the FX liner of your choice in 22 caliper and a 500 millimeter, obviously. It can adapt to any one of those. I chose the Superior Heavy because I had all intentions on shooting slugs. And I polished and bored that. I bought O-rings to separate the liner from the stainless steel housing. And then I also bought O-rings to separate the housing from the shroud. So everything's evenly spaced all the way out through here. Helps with the harmonics of the barrel. Really did a good job. This is a 380cc carbon fiber bottle. This is a Huben power regulator. It's Huben power, just regular power. This is called the Dream. It actually says Dream valve right there. And on the other side it says Dream Notos valve, specifically made for this Notos. This regulator can handle up to 5,500 psi, and then the regulated side of it can regulate up to 4,500. So it's an actually super accurate, very accurate valve. I've been really super pleased with this valve. But don't be fooled and don't go on. They are a China-based company. They have their own website. So if anybody's ever interested in trying to get one of these, they make them for the Air Force guns, the Condor, and a couple of other Air Force guns. So they're known, but don't go and AliExpress has these valves supposedly, and the Black Cricket valve, or the Black Hawk Cricket, supposedly have those, but the owner or president of Huben Power emailed me and told me do not purchase anything from AliExpress. They're not affiliated with, sell, or endorse anything they sell. So basically they're knockoffs. I had him put PSI gauges on mine. They come with MPA gauges, but I asked him if he'd put PSI, and he did. And also with this valve comes a 25cc plenum that's attached to it. It's underneath here, and I'll explain this here in a second. I'm not taking this apart, guys, to show you all the things I've done. Just want to take my word on it. It's finally together. It's shooting good. I don't want to mess with it. If anybody's shot air guns enough, they know what I'm talking about. But anyway, there's a 30cc plenum, and it's got two set screws to where you can clock this valve exactly where you want it. So it's not, turned one certain way. You can clock it to however you want it. But I went a step further, and I have a friend, shout out to Brad. He owns he don't own it. He works in a machine shop that the owner gave him permission and me permission. He has a CNC machine. I was wanting to custom make two parts for this gun, and I'll explain what them are here right now. There's a 25cc plenum here that's hooked to this, and then I had an additional 35cc plenum made to connect into this. The diameters on both of those cylinders or plenums are the exact same as the stock cylinder on the Notos. So instead of having just a round plenums coming out all the way across here to this drop down, I just bought this handrail off Buck Rail also, somewhere where I got my moderator, and because it was custom made for the cylinder, and these are the same diameter, so I just took it, cut it to length. I kept this end here factory is how it come, and then I ended up having to cut this end off because it come out to like right here is where it would have come out. But I kind of like the way it looked. I put a pick rail on the bottom of it. I like it real good. It's super balanced, man. It's like right there, and that's like perfect. That's right where I grab it. It's perfectly balanced. Can't really ask for any more than that. What was I going to say? Oh, I had this plenum made from my buddy Brad. Like I said, it's 35cc and this is 25. Give me a total of 60. And then right here, once again, you guys can't see it, but there's what I call the restrictor plate. And the original one, well, this one's made just like it. Brad, he powder coated it, he custom made it. I took the original one in and said, hey, I want everything the exact same dimensions. The only thing is I want the porthole to be 5mm. And anyway, he made it. Fits perfect. There's a bleeder valve on the opposite side, on the side right here, but it's on the other side. It's hidden too because of this handle here. But so I could bleed it through it. 5mm hole. But the trouble I had then was where the 5mm hole come down here, the valve spring that controls the poppet valve houses itself inside the other end of this 5mm hole coming into the gun, into what would have been the plenum right here of this gun. The spring sets back into that. Then obviously there's an O-ring there. It seals this all together. And when you put this plate on, the plate's what actually puts tension on the spring, which puts tension on the poppet valve. Well, the spring, I was afraid wasn't going to sit right because of this hole being a lot bigger than it was. It was sitting like the spring was sitting in the hole, right, basically. So what I decided to do was, the hole is not exactly center of that, but it's not going clear to the edge either. So what I did was, make a long story short, I put a cone spring. That's what I call it, a cone compression spring. Bigger on one end, smaller on the other. And I got the dimensions off the poppet and the inside dimensions of this, the back side of this plate. So anyway, the cone spring kind of sits all the way over the hole and then goes all the way around a perimeter of the inside, and then the tapered end comes down and houses itself over goes inside the poppet valve. Anyway, I know I'm explaining it, but if you guys, anybody's familiar with Notos and taking them apart, they'll know what I'm talking about when I say these things I'm saying. Anyway, the brass transfer port right here. This spring that I bought is, I'm not for sure. The diameter of the wire is smaller than what the original was, and I think it's got less pressure. I wanted to keep a hammer spring in there though, or a valve spring in there. But anyway, the brass port right here that transfers it up to the barrel here, it's drilled to 5mm. The only problem that I had on the whole gun was there's this there's a cylinder that shoots right up through here, like a transport, basically a port, but it's more like a runway. The air comes in this way, then through that brass port up to here, in this little section here. There's a screw underneath the side of here that looks like you could have used it for a bleeder valve, maybe. But what I did was I had my buddy just take that screw out, and with the thickness of this block and that port, I was kind of too worried to try to get 5mm out of it. So we went ahead and made it 4. So it's like 5mm, 5mm, then it really goes to 4, then back to 5 again with the transfer port on this breech in here. So I couldn't get that 5mm. I may have been able to, but I was afraid. I didn't want to weaken the walls of the moderator and end up leaking air, end up exploding. I mean, who knows, right? 4,500 psi is a lot, not to mess around with. And then I tapped and died and put another screw in there because that's the way it was originally, and I didn't know any other way of sealing it off. So everything's been bored out basically to 5mm except for this one. This goes through the block, but it's at 4mm. If you look right here, get it around here, the cocking end of it. There's the brass end of that custom kit that he's got. Safety. So anyway, these are Carm magazines, 12 rounders. I bought this thing here off eBay. I can't remember off the company I got it off of. It's 3D printed. Basically just holds the magazine. Vector Optics Viron scope. Might as well get into this. Trigger, everyone knows it's a single stage, but I took it apart also. There ain't much you can do with it, but I made it pretty good. You got to shoot it to get used to it the way I got it. It's got a real light pull now. Safety still works fine on it. But beware, because if you adjust them too much, the safety won't even work on it anymore. There's pins that this trigger swings on. And there's actually a couple different pins in here. I had removed those pins, separated the sides of this bottom housing, took the pins out, polished them up, put a layer of lithium grease on them, put them all back together. The adjusting screw, the trigger adjusting screw, I took it out. It seemed to be real sharp, kind of jaggedy. So I took 1,000 grit. Well, actually, I started with 600 and rounded that tip off just a little bit, and then finished it up with 1,000. Put just a little thin layer of lithium grease between the adjusting screw and I can't remember what the name of that part's called that releases the hammer spring to fire it. It's part of the trigger mechanism, but it holds the hammer back, and then when you hit the trigger it lifts up. I can't remember what the name of that part is, but it's real super easy to pull now. Like I said, you have to shoot it to get used to it because it don't have it's really no stop. It has like a 1/4 inch pull and then boom, it'll fire. There's not really any kind of a stop. So I'm the only one that shoots it really, so I know what it does. I'm used to it. I wouldn't want probably a child shooting it because it's, like I said, there's no stop to it. Safety works though, so it's still safe, but pretty touchy trigger now, basically. Anyway, I did all that, and then the hammer spring. I upgraded the hammer spring. The original, the wire diameter was 0.92 millimeter, and roughly about 2.5 inches long. I bought a 10 pack of 1.2 millimeter, same diameters, as an inside-outside diameter of the spring itself, not the wire. The wire is 1.2. I ordered some 1.5. 1.5 are a little, really way too stiff, so I didn't even bother using them. I tried putting them in and take Hercules to cock it. And the 1.2 seemed to work out great. And what else I did was, of course, the hammer and all that, I took it out. I put a layer of silicone grease on the hammer where it slides into the cylinder before it smacks the valve. I lubricated it up real nice. This hammer spring, I put 3, well, I did have some laying here, but I must have cleaned them up. I put 3 super thin washers that fit. This adjuster and screw has a male end that comes out, and that's what the spring slides over. Well, I'd gotten some washers that would fit over that also, but then be small enough diameter-wise where you could still screw it in here without, getting away, obviously. But I put lithium grease between all 3 of those washers. I mean, they're real super thin. And I've got the spring backed out all the way. It's at the loose setting that it can be on, and still be able to put this stock on. You can't come out any further, or you can't put this little handle part here back on. So it's at its least setting. But what I like about that is the spring will cock square every time now, because these type of mechanisms where you're actually pulling the spring back when you pull this, I mean, it's like right here, everything's right here. It takes a little more force than some of these side levers that you can just cock real easy. It takes a little bit of a little more oomph to cock them. But when that spring compresses, the weight, it never has that binding spot. Like, you take some springs out and they'll kind of have a little bow to them, like where they probably cocked a little not square. Well, with these washers and that lithium grease, what I'm finding is when I cock it, and if that spring wants to turn a little bit, it can on that thin layer of grease. Just slides right around it. But anyway, cocking this is so much smoother now just doing that. I mean, I'm assuming that's what's making it do it. It's doing a real good job. It's stock, but I didn't see the sense in replacing something that I like the way it feels. I just like it. It's cheaper. It sounds cheap. It was only a $250 gun when I got it. I've gotten probably, with everything I've bought on it, I've got about 850 wrapped up in this. But it loves these. These are, I settled with 21 grain H&N HPs at the .218. This barrel liner, after I polished it and cleaned it before I installed it, I've went through NSAs, I went through Griffins, I went through a lot of slugs. I still have probably 350 NSAs that I'm not even shooting because um, I don't see the sense in it. These here, I'm shooting these 20. These are 21 grain, and right now the way everything is, I'm shooting them at 975 feet per second. I got the Straylock Pro app. I've got it all calculated inside that app. I've killed 3 crow with it in this past week. 2 of them was at 139 yards. With low wind, it was like 5.2 mile per hour winds. But dead on. I've got my scope, according to that Straylock Pro app, it was telling me to zero it in like at 62 yards. I don't know. It was it's what they recommended. But anyway, I ended up zeroing in at 60 is what I zeroed this in at. I've got my sight, my custom sight tapes that I put on there myself, from what the app tells me to do. But 50 yards, 60, 70, 80, 90, all the way up to 100. Obviously, you got your flyers. Obviously, you got the wind that you always got to take into effect when shooting air guns. But this gun is amazing. I tried to bump up to 23 and 25 grains. Obviously, I lose my FPS, but I couldn't. I even went with the H&N 23s just to see. But there's something about these 21s, it just freaking, it likes them. Even though it's the same maker, and all it is a couple grams more, or a couple grains more. I don't know. It just likes those. And thank the Lord, because actually Amazon, or the Amazon I order from anyway, around here, has these for $13.40 for a 10 of 200, and free delivery. So I bought 6 tens of them. For right now, I want to stockpile them, because if you notice, these are the older style HPs. If you notice, I don't know if you can tell or not, them are super dark gray. Them are straight lead. There is no tin or whatever they're making these ones out now. NSA's making them out of it. And I think some of these newer are turning their originals into them other ones. But them's original lead. Anyway, like I said, I bought 6 tens. I'm planning on, and every one of the tens are the same. I don't know if they're the same batch, same run, but they're made out of the same lead. And you can always tell that real dark lead. You can tell that it's pure. I clean and wash all my slugs. I don't know if it's necessary or what, but I do it. Sometimes these H&Ns will have like some type of a residue on them. I just clean them off so I don't even have to mess with them. Spray them with a light coat of oil, and that's what I use. But the 218s, man, this gun is dead on. 140 yards. Well, it was 139. Crow. 2 of them. And it took me 3 shots to get both of them. The first one, I missed him. They was landing in those same spots. That's why I took 3 shots at 129, 39 yards. Anyway, because they was landing in the same little area. But anyway, yeah, man, guys, freaking screamer. I'm really so proud of this. I've got a Saber Tactical bottle clamp coming with the Picatinny rail, and I bought this new bipod for it. It's carbon fiber also, matched the barrel. It's got a little wider stance. This here is just a cheap CV Life one here. It's done the trick, but the stance is so narrow. I want something for a little more stability. But anyway, I'm waiting for it to come so I can put it on. But that's it, guys. Total length of this gun with the stock up is 41 inches, I'm thinking. 40 or 41. It goes in my case over there, and that case can hold up to a 43-inch gun, so it fits in it perfect. With this collapsed down, not like it is now, with it fully extended, or that's the way I shoot it, just like this, that much extension. But it's lights out, man. I've never been so impressed with myself for making this gun, or customizing this gun, I should say. And something else I'm wanting to share, not taking away from anything else, right, ever. I would love to own an FX air gun. I would love to own, these Crowls. I would love to own these Day States, these $2,000+ guns, right? But what I've come to realize, and these are air guns, right? Pressurized air. There's going to be leaks. With this gun, I've gotten probably 2,500 slugs through it, roughly. Give or take with all the varieties that I've put through it. I'd say 2,500. The only leak that I've had was when I depressurized it, because I was wanting to back down my regulator valve. And with this regulator, you can turn it up under pressure, but you can't turn it down. Don't recommend it. I don't either. But anyway, when I depressurized it, and this is after having about 1,500 shots through it probably, and then when I pressured it back up, for some reason it was leaking here, and I took it out, and it was the O-ring was kind of scraped up. You know how they get. So I put a new O-ring in there, and that's it. The only leak I've had out of this gun since I've owned it. $250 gun, $600 worth of accessories and customized to it. And no problem, right? The only adjusting I had, of course, I had the regulator and I had the hammer spring. But as it sits right now, I got my regulator at 2,300. Basically, that's like 155, 158 bar. It's at 2,300. And then the hammer string I got backed all the way out because it's beefier. And it's perfect. I'm getting 60 to 65 shots, good shots, out of that 380cc bottle. So I'm just happy as hell. And having Notos shooting, I've got my sight tapes. I've only got them out to 150. I doubt if I ever try to shoot anything besides targets or fruit or vegetables or a can of pop or something. I doubt if I ever try to shoot a live animal at over 150 yards, and not maybe a bird or something that I know I can kill, but 150 yards is plenty long enough for me. And it's cracking them at 139 right now, consistently. If you can get that wind right, the elevation on this scope, that Straylock Pro app has done me justice with this gun. I put everything in exact measurements, and it's pretty dead on. For the elevation it is, the windage, it is what it is with fair guns, right? You can put in windage on it in the angle, but at the end of the day, if it's anything over 5 miles an hour, you pretty much on your own of what you think you should adjust it by however much you shoot. You know your gun, you know how it goes. But anyway, guys, sorry for the long video, but man, oh man, it's a sweet ride. Later.